how do we look at CSAM? We look at CSAM, which is Certified Information Security Manager, the certification from ISACA. It primarily focuses on management and governance, right? So we are when we start understanding CSAM, we look at it from as people who manage information security and not as people who configure security. So whatever be your current background or your current role, the way we are going to look at it is how are we going to manage and not just configure security. We all know that this certification is recognized globally and also across industries. So whatever background you come from, as long as you are associated with information security, this certification very well applies to you. And very importantly, they expect a certain level of experience. This is not an entry-level certification. As you come into our training programs, we will elaborate more in terms of, right, the prerequisites, the background, and once you complete the exam and get yourself, once you clear the exam, what are the next steps? Okay. As we look at each question, what we want you to look at is not from a technical perspective, right? What CSAM primarily validates is, are you able to understand the question and, look at it strategically, right? Risk management becomes a very important part of CSAM. So are you able to understand the risk terminologies, the risk process? And as information security managers, the expectation from CSAM is that you have to own your risks. Okay. And last but not least, leadership capabilities and also ability to talk to your leaders. See, when we look at the CSAM exam, both during the training and during the examination, we take away the mindset of our current role. Even if you are not an information security manager, during the exam, you will have to think yourself as somebody who is managing information security within an organization. Only if you come into that thought process, you will be in a position to choose the right answer for the relevant question. So intentionally, what CSAM does is, it makes you think and it makes you validate. Okay. So what I want is, since we are trying to understand the pattern of the question and also what kind of answers could go right, once I bring up question 1, I want you to read the question once, read all the 4 options, and then go back and read the question again, and then give your answer on the chat. It's okay to be right or wrong. We are only in the process of learning. So whatever be your answer, we are not going to mark anyone here. We are not going to judge anyone here. So whatever be your answer, whatever strikes you, please feel free to put that on the chat. And then we will discuss and we will move on. Right? And this is the strategy. This is how we will also get into the depth of each of the questions and the concepts as part of the training as well. Okay, so with no further delay, I am bringing up question number 1. I will read the question for you, and then you'll have to look at all the 4 options and give me whatever your answer can be. I'm going to put question 1 on the chat, and you just have to give me A or B or C or D. Right? So what does the question say? The question says, which of the following is most important to the successful implementation of an information security program? This is a classic CSAM question, because what it does is, it makes you think like, Hey, you are an information security manager. If you have to implement a successful information security program within an organization, which of these is most important? See, the very question that says most, if the question says most important, what it also means is definitely all the four options are relevant. Right? It will not be like one option is not relevant. All the four options are relevant, but you have to prioritize. See, as an information security manager, repeatedly, you may have to look at what is there on your plate and prioritize. Okay, so take a minute, think. So let's go back and look at the question, right? The question says, which of the following is most important for the successful implementation, right? So the keywords here are, you can design an information security program and you have to implement it. Okay. So which means, what do we mean by designing and implementing the program? Identifying the relevant processes, the relevant controls, right? What will suit what kind of project, which team, what kind of security processes and controls are needed for each of these activities. That's going to be the question, right? Now, as you have eliminated, establishing KPIs is typically after the implementation, when you want to measure the effectiveness of your program. It is not for the implementation. So that is why we eliminate A, right? Conducting periodic risk assessments is a very important activity, right? But again, this is more either you would have done prior to the program to identify what are the potential risks and what are the controls needed for each of them. So either you would have done it prior, or you will do after implementing the program, you will do it regularly. So again, this is more to measure the effectiveness of your controls and do you need or do you find any additional risks? Okay, so hence we eliminate A and D, and based on your answers, you have two B's and C's. Understanding current and emerging technologies is important to know whether your controls are up to date, they are relevant, right? And whether they can manage any upcoming risks. But that is not the most important factor for implementation of an information security program. So what are we left out? We are left out with B, which is obtaining stakeholder input. Okay. So this becomes a key factor in identifying, right, what could be, how a program can be successful. Okay. Why is this important? Give me a second. This is important because, see, a lot of times what can happen is you as an information security manager, you would have, let's say, for example, simple example, you have defined an access management process and you have set up all the tools and access related controls. Now, all of a sudden, one of your stakeholders, so who are these stakeholders? They can be typically business leaders, department heads, right? Your suppliers, vendors, even your employees. If you have not consulted them before designing and implementing your information security program, what you are doing and what they are expecting will not match. And that can lead to a lot of confusion. Okay, and later, see, at the end of the day, your role as an information security manager is to support your teams to protect their information. So without their inputs, you cannot implement an information security program successfully. Hence, the correct answer will be B. If you're good with the understanding, please give me a hand raise or a yes on the chat, and we will move on to the next question. Excellent. Thank you, team. Let's move on to question number 2. Thank you so much for the confirmation. Question 2. What does question 2 says? The CISO has developed an information security strategy. Who is CISO? The Chief Information Security Officer, the highest ranking person in information security. But he or she is struggling to obtain senior management commitment for funds to implement the strategy. So he is not getting the money or the budget to implement. He has designed a strategy, but he is not getting the budget to implement it. Which of the following is the most likely reason? Why do you think among these, what could have happened which is causing the CISO to not get an approval or commitment of funds from the senior management? When we say senior management here, typically the CEO and the board of directors, people above the CISO's position. Okay. So we have gone with A and B. C saying that the strategy does not comply with security standards. We don't know that. See, this is a question where in all CSAM questions, whenever you attempt a question on CSAM, we have to, our source of information is only these 2 lines. We cannot assume anything beyond what is written in these questions, right? That's a very important takeaway. Okay, so does the strategy comply with the standard or not? We don't know that. So we will eliminate C. The CISO reports to the CIO. Again, we don't know that, right? See, what has this to do with the question is a different, way of thinking. But do we know anything about it? We don't know. So without knowing that, we cannot think that as a reason. So we directly eliminate C and D, and hence the discussion is between A and B. The strategy does not include a cost-benefit analysis, right? Now again, that is something that we cannot concretely conclude from the information that is given. So the information says that the CISO has developed the strategy. We have no idea what the strategy contains or does not contain. Hence, we cannot confidently say A. Okay, which means the only possible here we have to guess, because the question itself says which of the following is the most likely reason. That is, something has happened, could have happened, which is causing the senior management to not give the funds. What could have happened? The most possible reason is B. There was a lack of engagement, right, with the business during the development, right? Is this something that happens typically in office environments? Yes. See, what you must do as an information security manager is, anything that you're developing, whether it is an information security strategy or a policy document, right, or some key processes, whatever you are developing, you have to constantly be in touch with your senior management team You have to showcase what you're developing, what is the current, let's say, stage of the project. Keep showing it to them, keep them familiar with what is happening. If you are not going to engage them throughout the development of a strategy or a program or a process, what is going to happen is they may be assuming something that maybe you are doing this, and what you have actually done is very different from what they expected. Okay, and that can become a big, difference in opinion or understanding. And it's a very likely reason to say that, hey, we never expected this. We thought you will come up with a different program, right? And hence, they may directly get away, and probably they may not give you the funds that is expected. Right? So hence it becomes very critical and important for you to constantly touch base with them. Okay. Thank you for attempting question 2. I see few more participants who have come in. Just for the benefit of the new participants, we are running through some of the questions in CSAM, and we are trying to understand how to look at a CSAM question and what should be our thought process when we are attempting this in the certification exam. Right? We have just completed question 2. I would request all of you people who have joined newly to please attempt the answers on the chat so that you can evaluate your understanding. We will also discuss and move on. Okay. So with no further delay, let's move on to question number 3. What I would want is read the question, read all the 4 options, and see what you think could be the most relevant option here, and put your answer on the chat. See, there are no right or wrong here. There are no marks, right? We are just trying to understand things. Okay, let's move on. Question number 3. A risk manager is documenting a newly identified risk in the risk register and has identified the department head as the risk owner. The department head has instructed the risk manager to identify one of the low-level managers in the department as the risk manager. Okay, what has the department head done in this situation? As you get into our CSAM training, we will look at the risk process in detail. Domain 2 of CSAM is all about risk management. We will look at the various risk options in detail. For now, let's focus on this question. As a risk manager, right? For example, let's say you have one of your team members as a risk manager and they have identified a new risk. Now you go and talk to the department head of the department. So for example, let's say if this is a risk related to HR team and you're talking to the HR head. What is the head telling you? The head is telling the risk manager that, hey, go and talk to one of my reportees, right? Which is one of the low-level managers in the department, and make him as the identified risk manager or the risk owner. So what is the HR head or the department head doing in this situation? See, typically what happens in organizations is that the owning a risk is looked at from two perspectives. One is somebody should have the accountability to take action on that risk. When we say accountability, it has to be a decision-making authority. That is why a lot of organizations, what they do is they make the head of the departments as the risk owners. But does it mean that the HR head, if he or she is made as the risk owner, he or she will have to take action on the risk? Not necessary. Typically, what they do is they would direct you to a respective team member of them who actually works on the ground and knows the risk better. So by doing that, you cannot say that he has abdicated his responsibility. Abdicated means he will not even, let you take any action. Okay, he will just sit on the risk forever. That is not what he is doing, right? He has directed you to one of the low-level managers. So it cannot be abdication. Okay, number one. Number two, transferring the risk. What is risk transfer? Risk transfer does not happen within a department. Usually, when we say transferring the risk, we are asking typically an external party to take action on the risk on our behalf. Okay, here, since he is just directing you to one of the managers in the same department, we don't consider it as risk transfer. Okay, so then what is this? This is nothing but delegating ownership. And this is something that you will practically see in a lot of organizations. You may find the name of the manager as the risk owner, but the person who is actually actioning it could be one of his team members. Is delegation okay? Yes, it is absolutely fine, as long as it is being delegated to the right person and action on the risk is being taken. If somebody is just doing something for the sake of it, then you have a problem. Okay, so what we must do as information security managers is delegating ownership is fine, but later when we talk to that low-level manager, we'll have to see whether that manager is really capable of addressing that risk. Okay, so for this question, the right answer will be C. An information security manager has been asked to determine whether an information security initiative has reduced risk to an acceptable level. Which of the following activities would best provide the information for the information security manager to draw a conclusion? Please read all the 4 options and share your answer. So what is the question? The question is asking whether the risk has been reduced to an acceptable level. Okay, so conducting a business impact analysis or a cost benefit analysis has nothing to do with reduction of a risk level. They have a different purpose. So the option has to be between B and C. Reviewing the risk register will give you the current level of the risk, but it will not tell you whether the risk has been reduced or not. When do you know whether her risk has been reduced to an acceptable level? You have to perform a risk assessment again. Only then you will get to know whether the risk level has reduced or increased. Okay, hence the correct answer here will be option B. Here comes your question number 5. A legacy application does not comply with new regulatory requirements to encrypt sensitive data at rest. And remediating this issue would require significant investment. What should the information security manager do first? So the question is first. Okay, what should the information security manager do first? Presenting the non-compliance risk to senior management can happen, but that will come later. Right? Determining the cost to remediate the non-compliance could also come later. Investing alternative options. All of these will happen, but before all of this, you have to assess the business impact to the organization, because only if you know the impact, you will be able to identify. Even when you present it to the senior management, one of the questions that they're going to ask you is, see, we understand that this is a non-compliance. What is the impact? Right? So you always start with the impact, and then you look at what are the alternatives, how much cost, what will be the cost, and then you take all these inputs to the senior management and seek their advice as well. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's move on to question number 6. Management has expressed concerns to the information security manager that shadow IT may be a risk to the organization. What is the first step the information security manager should take? So what CSAM does is, it gives you terminologies like this purposefully to know whether the participant knows terminologies like shadow IT. So if you understand the terminologies shadow IT and also understand the first step, you will choose the right option. Okay, what is shadow IT? Any IT component that is being used without the proper knowledge of the respective IT team. So what will be your first step? As an information security manager, what is the first step that you must take? You must determine the extent of shadow IT usage. Right? Because without that, you cannot come to a conclusion in terms of what is needed or not needed. Okay? Hence, it becomes very critical and important for you to understand the extent of shadow IT usage, and then you can look at all other options. Okay, excellent team. I think we are on the right track so far. Here comes your question number 7. Which of the following is the most effective method of preventing deliberate internal security breaches? So you have 4 ways of preventing a breach, which is also given as part of your options. But what is the most effective in preventing deliberate internal security breaches? So there are certain terms that are important here, right? This has to be a preventive control. And what do we mean by deliberate? Deliberate internal security breach. What is deliberate internal security breach? Deliberate means knowingly. Internal security is being committed typically by an employee or could be a contractor who has access to the system. Okay. So if you look at IDS, right, IDS is more external associated. Same with firewalls, right? biometric access control, right, can do to some extent, but if you have to, but let's say that I am a person, for example, let's say I'm a HR manager. I want to purposely do a mistake. So in that case, biometric alone cannot help, because biometric is going to recognize his or her face as a valid employee and it is going to let somebody in. So the only way among the given options to deliberately prevent an internal security breach is by screening prospective employees. What do we mean by screening? It is one of the ISO 27001 control, which is conducting a background verification check. So what you're doing is you are recruiting only trustworthy people, and hence you prevent somebody from entering your organization who can intentionally commit a mistake. So the correct answer here will be D. Okay. Thank you so much to all of you for continuing to attempt the answers. Let's move on. Question number 8. Which of the following is the main benefit of performing an assessment of existing incident response processes? So why should you do an assessment of your existing incident response processes? What is the main benefit? See, the reason why you want to do an assessment of your existing processes, it may be to, see, typically here when we say assessment, right, you'll have to understand that this is not a risk assessment. This is understanding your existing processes. So hence, it is not about D. When we say D, you can look at what could be the potential threats or vulnerabilities. Okay, this is about evaluating your existing processes. After that, once you complete the assessment, you may do some prioritization. But the very reason why you want to assess is to validate your current capabilities. Because you should know what are your existing capabilities, and then you will look at what else is needed. Right? So the best answer here will be A. 2 more questions. Question number 9. Which of the following is the most important incident management consideration for an organization subscribing to a cloud service? So let's say you are an organization and you're trying to subscribe to a cloud service. With respect to, you will evaluate a lot of things, right? What kind of service is this and who is the vendor and all of that. But with respect to incident management, because even when you're using a cloud service, there may be an incident. What is the most important thing that you will look for among the 4 options when you're subscribing to a cloud service? Decision on the classification of cloud hosted data. This has more to do with data management and not incident management, right? So we will not choose A, right? Expertise of personnel providing incident response. Yes, this is a good option, but definitely not most important. What is most important? An agreement on the definition of a security incident. See, what happens is between you and the cloud service provider, you may not even know what an incident could be. You may think something as an incident and they may have a different opinion. So very, very important to have an understanding of what you decide as an incident and then come to a conclusion. Okay, so the correct answer will be D. And then you can go for B. All right. Thank you, team. The last question that we're going to discuss for today. An incident response team has determined that there is a need to isolate a system that is communicating with a known malicious host on the internet. Which of the following stakeholders should be contacted first? Say, system administrator could be a person who is already working with the system, right? But what are you doing? You're trying to isolate the system, means the system will no longer be available to business. That's how you should interpret it. So the first stakeholder you must contact is the business owner, because we always look at the business impact, right? And then we look at others. Okay, so in this case, the best answer will be A. Okay, with that, we complete the 10 questions that we've planned for today. The whole point of this session was to give you an introduction into what kind of training and questions that we will be doing as part of our full-fledged CSAM program.